Hello everybody! In this video we're going to go through an install of Linux Mint 21.1 OEM. We're going to prepare it for shipping to the end user. We're going to take a backup image and we're going to deploy it to a secondary VM. Let's get started. Okay, here we are on our primary Proxmox node, PVE01. And so we're going to go ahead and create the Linux Mint VM. Create VM. We're going to say Mint 21.1 OEM. We're going to select the ISO image we're going to use. On disks, we are actually going to change this, and we're going to make it only a 20 gig disk. We are going to use SSD emulation. On CPU, we're going to give it 4 cores. Memory, we're going to give it 4 gigs of RAM. And accept the defaults for network and start after created. That's going to do 15,008 here. And what we want to do is we want to do the OEM install for manufacturers. And this is going to be just slightly different than the normal full install. And that's all right, because this is going to allow us to capture an image that we can use in other VMs, as well as deploy to physical machines if we so desire. And each machine will get a unique ID, and we'll go through the basic sort of out-of-box experience, is what they call it in the Windows world, but just the basic setup. Okay, so we need to set a manufacturer ID. We're just going to call it Mint 21.1 OEM. Continue. English, US in both. For keyboard layout, continue. Install multimedia codecs, continue. Default is fine. Continue. Time zone, New York is fine for me. Okay. Computer name is going to be PVE. Let's see. We're going to call it Mint 211 OEM. OEM is the username. We'll assign a password. This is temporary, and it will get wiped when we prepare this for the end user. And continue. And we'll be back after the initial install is completed. All right, we're ready to restart. So we'll go ahead and do this and come back in just a moment to start our customization. Okay, we are booted into Linux Mint. We're going to close their welcome screen up. And I'm going to jump over to my notes and we're going to do some customizations. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is run some update. We'll do Control-Alt-T to open a terminal, and we'll do our normal update command for Debian-based systems. It'll ask for the password. And so what we'll do after we get done with this first step is we're going to get rid of those pesky asterisks in the terminal, which some people might like. I find annoying. It's inconsistent with the majority of Linux distributions out there. Okay, we are done with our initial updates. So what we're going to do now is we are going to remove the file that controls the asterisks in the terminal. So we're going to say sudo rm-f etc sudoers.d, and we're going to get rid of 0 pw feedback. And now if we exit the terminal and reopen it, and if we say sudo-i, it's going to ask for the password. No asterisks. So that's working as intended. So one of the new features available in Mint 21.1 is Flatpak is included by default. You can check that by just typing in Flatpak --help, and it gives you the help. So we are next going to go to the software manager, and we're going to install a few packages. So we'll come up here once this loads, and we're going to mainly concentrate on 3 packages, and we'll get those installed. Of course, if you were doing this for something that you wanted to keep as an image longer, you would probably do additional packages. So we're going to install GIMP. We'll say install, continue. It'll ask for password. So we turned off asterisks in the terminal, but in a graphical interface, I'm actually okay with those being there. And I don't think there's an option to turn them off. So we're going to say OpenShot and OpenShot Video Editor. We're going to install that. This is the latest 3.0 version, as you can see down here. And then the last thing we're going to install is the Microsoft TrueType fonts, or the installer for this anyways, which will kick off automatically, and we'll get those installed, which will make it easier for people to exchange documents between LibreOffice on Linux and Microsoft Office on Windows or Mac OS. Again, for the sake of time, I'm only going to install the 3 packages, and then we're going to move on. Okay, so we finished the install of OpenShot, and then we're going to come back here and we're going to say ttf-ms core fonts, and that should, yep, there it is. This is a system package. Install, continue. Okay, so this brings up an actual installer. So we are going to click the box to accept the license and click next. Okay, so now we can close the software manager. We're going to do a couple other things from the command line. So we'll open that back up. And we're going to install htop and Neofetch. And so again, if you're just getting started with Linux, sudo gives us administrator level privileges, or root in the case of Linux. Apt is the name of the package manager. We're telling it to install. We're giving it two package names separated by spaces, and the -y is going to tell it not to prompt us for confirmation other than a password. All right, so we can test this. Neofetch. All right, and then htop. And that is looking good. So we'll go ahead and quit out of that. Okay, at this point, we're going to close out of our terminal. We're going to shut down. We're going to go to snapshots. Wait for this green arrow to go away. Okay. We're going to say OEM install before prep for customer, or say take snapshot. Status is okay. At this point, we will start it back up. All right, that looks good. And so prepare for shipping to end user. Now this is equivalent to running sysprep on Windows and generalizing the installation. So we're going to do this. We're going to run prepare for shipping to end user. It'll ask for password. OEM config will run the next time the system boots. Okay, so everything's been generalized, and at this point we want to shut down. Now, if we were to restart the system, it will go through that out-of-box type experience. We're going to go one step further. We're going to come here to hardware. We're going to change the virtual optical disk to be Rescuezilla. Say OK. We are going to come to options, and we're going to say boot order. We'll actually turn off net booting, but we're going to move the CD-ROM, the virtual CD-ROM, up to the first item and say OK. We're back at the console, and now we're going to start up into Rescuezilla. All right, English, start Rescuezilla. Okay, so we want to back up. We're going to select the drive that we want to back up and say next. All the partitions are selected, say next. We're going to back up over network. And we're going to back up to (172.16.74.223/backups). Username. And we'll say next. All right, I corrected the path for the NAS. We'll say next. And it's going to make us browse. We're going to say new folder. We're going to say mint 21.1 OEM create. That's a good folder for us. We'll say next. And that's the name of the image file. Next, it asks us for the compression level. Fastest would be no compression. We're gonna come to 4. 9 is the best. Go to 5. Say next. And we'll say next again. And we'll let this do its copy. Alright, the Rescuezilla backup has completed, so we can say next, and it brings us back to the first page. So from here we can close Rescuezilla and shut down the computer. Say shut down. Alrighty, we are on the second Proxmox server. We're going to create the new VM. We'll call this Mint OEM-01. Go over to OS. We're going to come down to PVE O2 store. And we're going to select Rescuezilla. Under System, we'll leave that alone. Disks, 32 gigs is fine because our image is only for a 20 gig disk. So we will have a little bit of room left over to expand to. We are going to give this one 8 cores and accept the default for type. For memory, we're going to give it 8 gigs RAM. Network is fine, and confirm. So we're going to say start after creation. Finish. Here's 102. And we're going to get into Rescuezilla. We're back here on the second Proxmox machine, and we're going to boot into Rescuezilla. And then we can start our restore process. Okay, this time we're going to restore over the network. And we'll enter in our credentials. I'm going to say OK. We're going to select our Mint 21.1 OEM. It's got the correct image selected. Next, we're going to restore to the QEMU drive. Next. All the partitions are selected. We'll say next. And we will continue on and overwrite the drive. Alrighty, and we are done. We'll say next. We can go ahead and close down Rescuezilla. We're going to go to hardware. We're going to remove the ISO image from the virtual optical disk. We're going to go to options. And we're going to make sure we're going to make sure that the boot order is set to SCSI 0. Remove network boot down. So it'll try the CD-ROM. It will jump to the hard drive. And here comes the acid test. Will it start up, and what will we be greeted with? And here we have the out-of-box system configuration. English is what we want. Keyboard layout English. New York is the correct time zone. And then it'll make us create a user. Okay. Continue. It's going to copy the rest of the configuration, and we should be in and ready to start using our Linux Mint system. All right, we're at the login screen. We'll go ahead and use our password that we just created. And we'll turn off the welcome screen. And we'll check the menu. So we should have GIMP installed under graphics. GNU image manipulation program. And if we launch into LibreOffice Writer, we should have the familiar Microsoft fonts. And we'll check for Arial, which is the standard. Okay, so we've got that. We're not going to save it. We'll open up our terminal. And if you recall, we installed Neofetch. And that came through. And htop. And we are good to go. So, we have gone through an OEM install. We backed it up with Rescuezilla. We restored it to a separate VM. And that is the basic procedure for creating an OEM install. You can use this image on virtual machines. You can use this image on physical hardware. And that, my friends, will bring us to the end of another video. If you liked this video, please go on down and hit the like button, subscribe, share this with friends. And until next time, I want to thank you once again. Happy computing and have a great day.